In April of 2017, I used my own money to self-fund a mortgage. Did I make money or did I lose money? It's been 2 years. Stay tuned and I will tell you the entire life cycle of the loan from the day it funded to the end. That's a little clue. All right, let's do this. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Finance Agents Live. This is episode number 80.
You could go around the world in 80 days.
You can. I keep changing the number so Rhoda can come up with new jokes. This is 80.
You wanted to say something about being 80 years old, but that's boring.
Yeah, no, 80 years old is exciting.
No, but every number is an age. You got to be more clever. Ron
80.
Smith was number 80 for the Denver Broncos.
Ooh, all right, that's awesome. I think Darren's got 80 new gray hairs. I think he gets a new one. I can't see him yet, but you probably get a new one every show. Are you on, Darren? You got your cool. Darren's got a cool new lighting rig up. He should put himself on there just so you can see it. All right. Anyway, moving on. Maybe he'll do that. Okay, today I'm going to be talking about something that's very interesting for me. Hopefully that means it's interesting for you. If not, I'm sorry. All right. In April of 2017, Rhoda and I and David inside the office put our money together and self-funded our own loan. First time we've ever done it. Oh, my clicker's not working.
We practiced.
You got to turn the clicker on. What is this technology? All right, there it is. We self-funded our own loan. Okay, look, and today you're going to get to hear what the heck happened. Did we make money? Did we lose money? I still got the shirt on my back. That's a good sign.
And I'm so rich I retired, so there's that.
It was pretty amazing. All right, so we're going to give you the rundown, tell you exactly what happened. We're going to go through who it is that applied, what did they apply for, what did they get, what did we get, what did somebody else get, what happened in the end, and do this. Now, if you're watching this and you have self-funded your own mortgage, I want to hear from you. Tell us what happened. Type in the box or type in the description below. We'd love to hear about it. By the way, there are opportunities with us for you to come in and fund some of our loans as well. Later on, I'll touch on that briefly, but that's not really the point of the show. The point of the show is now it's been almost a full 2 years, and you'll be able to see the entire life cycle of what happened. Rhoda, do you remember what you're thinking about when we started getting into this?
Yeah, all the money that I was going to have problems hauling around because I'd be so rich.
All right, were you excited or nervous when we did this?
I would say our investment and overall business thoughts are very different. I'm much more cautious.
Right.
So I wanted more things laid out. I wanted to understand what we were going to do with the payments. Were we going to keep them in the account? Were we going to take draws? I was more concerned about all of those things. And I think you and David were like, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. So there was definitely a different perspective for me.
Is that your way of saying you were nervous?
It was my way of saying, let's try and look at problems that could happen. And you're like, let's just do it. We'll figure it out. Let's just do it.
I mean, I got to say, just sitting next to you guys, I was nervous listening to you.
Really?
So,
okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hearing that, it's like, this will be interesting. Whatever it is, it's going to be interesting.
You're like, it's really interesting when it's not your money. A little less interesting. It's even more interesting
I can't
when
wait
it is.
to hear what you're actually going to say. I haven't heard any of
this. You
so
don't know what happened.
This is
okay.
Like, what you have.
All right, good. Okay. Well, it was.
We had a selfie photo thing light on. Let me take a selfie.
Okay. All right. I don't know what you're talking about. So let's go into this. Let's discuss, first of all, the client scenario. So the client comes to us, and before we even go any further, the reason we thought about doing this with our own money is that it was well below our normal lending guidelines. Our normal minimum is a $100,000 loan, and sometimes we dip below that. This ended up being way below it, so it just wasn't going to get funded unless we funded it with our own money. That's why we were interested in doing it, and we looked at it. So here we have a client. They inherited a home. Awesome. So basically got a free home given to them. But when they got it, they found out, I want to rent this thing out and make some money on it, but it's not in a condition that I can rent out. So they came to us saying, I need some money to renovate the house. Not a lot, it just needed to be fixed up. They had some tax liens. They had some business debt from whatever business they have, I don't know. And their plan was to fix it up, put a little bit of money, fix it up, lease it out, and then after, say, 5 years, sell it off and keep all the money. All right. They told us the value of the property was $125,000. Were you a part were you involved in this at this stage or only after it went further, Rhoda?
That was 2 years ago, and I do not remember. I
All
don't
right.
remember. I know we were looking at a lot of deals, and we had looked at several of them, thinking because we had the goal of doing smaller deals, the three of us, and so there were a lot of deals. I don't know who first reviewed it, but we were always kind of keeping an eye out for things like this.
Right. So we did this one and then kind of watched, and now it's been a long time. So let's talk about the borrower. What can you tell us about the borrower, Rhoda?
They were a husband and wife, and they owned a home, but I think they had inherited this one. So they owned it free and clear. It wasn't owner occupied, but they did have some tax liens. But other than that, there was low debt except for their mortgage, which was on the other property.
Yeah, the tax liens are only $1,300 that they have, so it's not that much money. So they have two pieces of real estate, right? They have this home that was given to them with no debt on it, otherwise they wouldn't have got it, and their own home, which happened to already be over leveraged. I think the value on their application was $155, and they had a loan for $156, which is a reason that a lot of lenders wouldn't want to help them. That's not something that lenders like to see. But besides that, they had real low debt. I mean, real low. I think they had one credit card with an $800 balance. So at least on that side, they're coming into it with no debt. Credit was not strong. Had over 50 inquiries, so they'd be shopping a lot. But then again, we funded a guy with 212 inquiries, so not a big problem there. All right, so that is the borrower. What do you remember about the property itself?
It was a single-family residence on the East Coast. What was
Maryland.
it? Maryland, right. So it was in Maryland. It was appraised at $80,000. And we got a BPO for $125, which I'm not sure. That's pretty unusual to have the appraisal come back lower than a BPO. In my experience, usually BPOs are lower than an appraisal. But anyway, there you have it. That was what happened.
So we ordered an appraisal and it came in at 80, and the client flipped. They said, "What? I thought this property was worth a lot more." So we went and got a secondary BPO, and that ranged out to be 125. Like Rhoda's saying, that's really weird. Normally you see the opposite. Normally you see appraisal at 125 and a BPO for less. And our job is kind of, figure out what the reality is. So we have some fun pictures of this property. Fun because it's interesting to look at. And this is a kind of good example of some of the things that people send to us. I've got to say, putting my own money into it, they didn't sell me. I would say I invested in this property in spite of the pictures instead of because of this. But if you're out there bringing pictures in for clients, I don't know which one they're looking at, Darren, but if you got the one with the exercise bike in there, that's my personal favorite. It would take about 2 minutes to, move the books and stuff, right? What do you think about the pictures, Rhodes? What's your favorite one?
Yeah, they're kind of angled down. I mean, if you're an agent with us, the pictures that are angled down, it's hard. I get that you can't, not everyone has a fisheye camera, so you can get the whole room, but standing in the doorway is helpful so you can get a better view of the room. But, you understand the property.
Right. I understand the carpet's pretty messed up. I got a good look at those lines on the carpet. The interesting thing about mortgage investing, as opposed to real estate investing directly, is real estate investing, you're going to go buy a house, and you're looking at that house, do I want to own this? Mortgage investing, you're still kind of looking at the house, do I want to own this? Because that's the mentality you need to have. But you're not, so you're willing to go with some things that normally you wouldn't go with. So this would be an example of that.
Maybe they read that book, The Admiral, you remember him, Make Your Bed? All the beds were made. I thought that was great.
Really?
Yes.
Is that bed made? I'm looking at it.
Yes.
That's made?
Yes.
I mean, you just can't see the other half of it.
It's made. Look at it.
What's with the pile of books? Is that how you
Doesn't
make your bed?
Underneath it, it's made.
That's how much you read. You read so much that you make your bed and then you stack 26 books, cover it with a blanket, and stick a water bottle.
Okay, negative Nancy.
Anyway, all right, so there you have it. That is the loan, or that is the property and the client scenario. I would love to know, how much money would you offer this person? You've got a conflicting value, somewhere between $80,000 and $125,000. The client actually came in asking for $125,000. They said, the home's worth $125,000, I want a loan for $125,000. If you've watched many of our shows, you'll know that's not how we lend.
Nope.
So I would love to see, literally, if you're watching this, type in the darn box, how much of a loan would you make if you wouldn't lend with your own money? How much of my money would you lend to these people?
Our money.
Yeah, no, I'm saying from their perspective. Our money. Somebody give them $10. I think Darren wrote that. $10. We got a 10. Can I get a 10? All right, whatever. I'll go ahead and go ahead. But if you're watching
I'm
this
doing
after
$10 for that slightly made bed that looked like it had a dog bed on as well.
Okay, but literally, Darren, right? You don't know what's going to happen. I don't think
I have no
you heard us
idea.
talk about this. But let's say you had
suspense
let's say you had
in the
$100K in the bank, right? You could invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, just keep it in cash. How much of a loan do you think you would offer this person?
I'm not going to go much more than probably about 50% of the value.
And what would you consider the value? 80, 125?
I'd probably go 80. I'm 40,000.
Okay, so 40 grand.
So I mean that's just being conservative on it.
Conservative. Sounds good. All right, perfect. Well, you more or less nailed it. Our loan was
Nailed it!
Oh, hey.
Hey, you should win something. Oh, hey, we got some people coming in. Stan Howard said he'd lend $50,000. Thank you, everybody. Ageless Beauty. You know, if your name is Ageless Beauty on YouTube, you should have a picture
Right.
of Ageless Beauty, or maybe just a picture. Anyway, I'll start with the dumb jokes. Ageless Beauty said 20 grand.
can't
I get
help
that.
it.
Yeah,
He won't stop. He won't
Shipley
stop.
Man. You know, YouTube names are like the weirdest thing ever. I've seen some really weird YouTube names. I'm not going to go into that
Unless
right
it's
now.
Frank.
But
Frank
I got
is just
40K from Frank, 40K from Shipley Man. Dave C says 60K. So
75%.
75% of the 80K. You're a braver man than me.
Wrong.
Matt Kennedy, 45K. I
Wrong-o.
think, Matt, you might be cheating. Looking at the notes here.
Have you shown out the answer yet,
Are you
Darren?
showing it?
Have
Did you
the
show it,
PowerPoint yet?
everybody?
I have not shown it
Oh,
yet.
Oh, okay.
Am I
All right.
supposed to show it?
Put it up there. Yeah, let's do
All right,
this.
here we go. 3,
Here-
2, 1.
Boom, here's our loan, and you're going to learn a lot from this, and I'm going to unpack it a little bit just so you understand the implications of what this is. Our loan, our final loan was for $45,000. Again, if you're watching
US
this,
dollars.
yeah,
US.
this is far below
Not
our normal
Canadian.
lending criteria. We do not have a
Not
strong
Australian.
$45,000 loan program. I don't want to start getting 1,000 inquiries about this $45,000 loan program. This is an aberration to what we normally do. What is normal is 12 months interest only. That's what that I/O means, interest only. Interest rate was 12%. Also, you know, a high-risk deal like this would probably be more. Although, I'm tickling something out there, sorry, you don't like that word. I said tickle. We're tickling it. We're starting to look at loans around 9.5% for qualifying. Again, don't apply. We'll do a launch and a little more details later. But we are going to start offering some lower rates as well, but not for this one. This one is considered high risk because it's so small. The smaller it is, the more the risk, the more we got to make it worth our while. As a private investor, you would understand if it's your money, you want to get a real return for this. Part of that is $10,000, 360 origination fee. So while it's a $45,000 loan, the client's only netting a little under $30,000. That's how much the client actually got. They paid $1,500 for the loan docs, $2,177 for a year's worth of homeowners insurance, $1,232 for title insurance, and some other random expenses. I literally put every single expense down there so that you can see that includes courier fees and a notary, whatever the heck. So the client ends up netting just under, $29,247. That's how much the client actually got into their bank account when the loan funded. Now, that's expensive, right?
Yes.
Because that is what it took for us to be willing to do the deal. Otherwise, it was not worth the risk. This is a high-risk situation. We got a high-risk borrower. They're given a free property. It's got tax liens. It's super low value.
Did you really care they were given a free property? How did that impact?
It's about having skin in the game. All right, somebody who gets something for free, easy come, easy go. You know, you get something for free, you get it, you lose it, right? And if you think, you know what, it was for free anyway, I guess I lost it. They don't have the skin in the game of our normal client. You have, $1 million property, and we're doing a loan for half of the value. They are going to lose half of that value if they lose the property. But if it's given to them for free, it's free. I mean, it's different psychologically, right? If you win $100 at casino, and then you take the next $100, you bet it all because it's free money. You know, maybe you don't think that way. Hopefully you don't, but most people do. All right, so our investment, my investment, Rhoda's investment, David's investment, we each split it up 3 ways. We put in $15K each. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you put in and what you got out of it, Rhodes?
Well, we set up an account. We each put in $15,000. I think David put in the $14,700, so he did his 2% discount prior to the funding.
That's called net funding. When you don't actually put in the whole amount, you put in a little bit less, then you're going to net fund the deal with a lender discount. Right.
And so then we did that, and we invested on April 1st, and it funded just a few days later. So
I know it says April 1st. It's not a joke. It actually did go in. And then we funded it a couple days later, and that's kind of normal for the money to go in, and it would take a couple days and then go back out again. It went into escrow. All the signing was completed. Money went back out. So that is it. We each put in $14,700, purchasing $15,000 worth of a note. And our expected return, what are we expected to get back from that?
Well, we were going to do the payments, like I said earlier, we were expecting to get 1% for those monthly payments of $150, and I think we sold it too quickly. We didn't really even get one payment, the 3 of us, but then they made other payments.
Why are you expected to get 1% per month? What is that?
The interest rate, the 12%, interest only.
I've had a number of people ask me recently a question that, I don't know, it just seems a little obvious, but maybe it isn't. How do you figure out the payments on an interest-only loan? It is super simple. You take the loan amount, you multiply it by the interest rate, you divide by 12. So if the interest rate is 12%, that's even easier. It's 1% a month. That's why we were expecting to get $150 a month on that $15,000 investment, although we only have to put in $14,700 because we got it at a discount. So that is the investor return we were looking at. So over the course of the year, what is the total amount we expected to get back, assuming it went a full year and paid off on the deadline?
Individually, we were expecting about a little over $16,000, almost $17,000, $16,800.
Right, so $150 a month times 12 months, $1,800. Get you 15 grand back, $16,800. And that is 14.2% annualized return. So if it had gone through exactly by the terms of the note, that is what we would have gotten. So let's put it out there again.
What happened?
What do you actually think happened? Whoa, I could hear you. What do you think happened? I want to see it. I'm literally going to wait. Let's do some witty banner while we wait for people to say.
Can you explain that large origination fee, please? Yeah, so some of the fees on that are fixed cost. Like, it doesn't matter if the loan is $10,000 or the loan is $10 million. Attorney fees are a fixed cost. So while the percentage of the loan, and that has an impact on the percentage of the loan. That's why doing these small deals are difficult to make financial sense, because some costs are fixed. You've got attorney fee, that's a fixed cost. Appraisal, depending on single family residence, most of the times that's just one fee of, let's say, $500. It's the same for this small property as it is for a larger property, generally within, a few $100s. Courier fees are the same. So a lot of it is a fixed cost, and you don't charge a percentage of the loan, and that's why the large origination fee proportionally to the loan.
Yeah, I mean, look, guys, we got a minimum fee of $12,500 on a loan. That's a minimum. So if it's a $1 million loan or a $100,000 loan, it's a big difference on the percentage, and that's just fixed costs. Ain't going to change. So there it is. All right. So Darren, you were starting to say what you think happened? I guess we sort of talked about it a little bit. Like we're gonna say a lot more than just that, but go ahead.
Yeah, but it sounds like you guys ended up selling it off pretty early, from what Rhoda was saying. My guess is
you gave it away.
Cat's out of the bag. I blew
but
it.
The big question is what did you sell it for? I would probably say, based upon the hopefully the new, if they got a new appraisal, you're able to sell it for more, especially if you were actually sent the purchaser the BPO.
Okay, that's an interesting thought, because that's not how it works, but I could see how you could think that way. So let's go into it a little bit. All right, so what actually happened? Here we go. We're going to break this up into 2 stages, because the first stage, frankly, is a little boring. I'm talking to you, Frank. Just kidding. Frankly, it's a little boring, the first stage, because it happens so quick.
He told you he can't help it with the terrible jokes.
That's an amazing joke, all right?
Can't help
If anybody liked my Frank joke, especially you, Frank, you better tell me so. Write it in the notes there. Okay, so there's 2 stages. I'm going to tell you about the first stage, but don't wrap this thing up because there's a lot more to come after that. Stage 1, what happened, Rhodes?
Our investment was out for 45 days.
What happened? Why was it only out for 45 days?
Because then we sold it.
And how does it work to sell it, right? Because Darren was saying you could sell it for more because it got an appraised for a higher value. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't remember how we sold this one. Did we list it on the exchange, or I don't remember. I don't remember how the selling worked.
Okay, all right. Well, it happened to be a friend of David's who bought it right away.
See?
We didn't even get a chance to list this thing. He just told a friend about it, and his friend happened to have that exact amount of money that she wanted to put in. I think she said, well, I only have 50K. Is there anything I can do? He's like, well, I just funded one for 45K. So she bought it. Now let's talk about what it means to sell it for more or sell it for less. There are a lot of exchanges out there you can go fund a loan and sell it. Most of the time, 90% of the time, when you see a loan, people are selling it off at a discount. What does that mean? Let's take this loan. $45,000 loan, 12% interest. You would sell the loan. Remember, you're not selling the house. You don't own the house. You just own a loan on the house. So it doesn't matter what the thing, you can't go, well, look, you could. I suppose you could sell a $45,000 loan for $60,000 to somebody, but they'd be stupid if they paid it. That is not really how it works. Generally what it is you're going to sell it at some sort of a principal discount, right? Like somebody could buy a $45,000 loan for $40,000 or something. Generally goes the other way in the favor of the purchaser. What we typically do on an ongoing basis with all of our loans is that if we funded this loan at $45,000 at 12% interest, we'd actually sell off the principal, $45,000, the whole thing, maybe with the small lender discount. Most of the time we just sell the whole note, and we sell it to them at 10% or something like that. So we actually retain a spread. So every month when the client pays their 12% payments, 10% goes to the investor, 2% goes to us. That's typically what we do internally. That's why we're able to ramp up and do a lot more. It's not what we did on this one because it was our own money and it was such a small deal. You couldn't even list this on the exchange. We just sold it. David sold it to his friend, sold the whole thing. We were done. We were cashed out. We were completely removed from the process. So that's why I said it's not super interesting. We got our, I think we have the notes right here. So to sum that part up, and then I'll get into the interesting part, $14,700 invested. We actually received one interest payment of $150. We got our return of $15,000 on the loan. So that is a net return of $450. By the way, it's a little approximate. I don't know if it's exactly 45 days. $450 for about 45 days, which is about a 25% annualized return, which sounds cool. But it's only really cool if you then put it into another one and you kept doing it. That's the only way you get an annualized return of 25%. If you got an annualized 25% but only had funds out half the time, what would be your end return? It's simple math.
Sorry, I was thinking about how we didn't get our money reinvested and we all had to pull out, and we tried real hard. So
all right, pop quiz on that, Darren. If you had a 25% annualized return on your money, but you only actually were able to lend your money half of the time, what is your final return?
I may have passed calculus, flying colors. I'm not going to do that right now.
It's just half.
12.5.
25% divided by 2. So half. That'd be a 20. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I paid attention that time.
12.5% annualized return.
Tell he's like,
I know, I'm super boring.
Doggy.
I don't even know why you're still watching this. I'm so boring.
Doggy.
Okay, so that's it. But the real return is whatever the heck. I think it's like 4%. Since we got a 4% on our money. All right, so that happened fast, all right? But after that, even though we sold it off, it was still on our loan servicing platform, and I've been able to watch it for the last 18 months or so until it just is in the process of wrapping up right now. So now we're going to go into the second part. All right, rolling into it. Tell us about the purchaser.
This was David's friend who bought it for $45,000 with the 12% interest, and then they had 80 to 125K in collateral. We were going with the 80,000 appraisal, so there was the 80,000 collateral, similar to what we had, like what we had. Why are you laughing? What did I do wrong?
Because Frank said that I'm hot, so that's cool. Thank you, Frank. All right, so yeah, the purchaser came in, bought the full note, $45K, with the expectation of getting that 12% return. Awesome. 12% is a great return, right? Better than you can get in the stock market consistently, and it's consistent. Better than you can. Anyway, so what actually happened with the borrower? This is where it starts to get interesting. So when you fund a loan in April, June 1st is going to be the first payment. That's how it works. You fund a loan sometime in a month, you skip the next month, and the first day of the following month is when the first payment is due. So that first payment came due June 1st, and guess what? Was it awesome?
No.
No? What do you mean?
Yes.
How was it not? Was it?
Because they were late.
They were late.
That wasn't awesome.
12 days, right. June 1st rolled around, and they were 12 days late. Okay, well, that's kind of off to a bad start.
It depends on what your penalty fees, and maybe you got the 5-day grace period and then an extra $100 or something. Maybe that'd be great.
It depends on the state, right? Some states there's a 5-day grace period. Some states there's a 10-day grace period. I think our default is a 10-day grace period. But if you do not pay, you, the borrower, don't pay within 10 days, now you start accruing default interest, you got late fees and stuff like that. So you don't want to do that as a borrower. Things are going to start getting expensive. So the first one was 12 days late. The next month, though, what happened?
They were on time.
Boom, on time. What about the next month, August 1st?
Oh, something happened. They didn't make their payment that month.
No payment at all. These are $450 a month payments. All right. So, okay, they paid June 1st, 12 days late. July 1st, on time. August 1st, nada. And then September 1st, they did something cool.
Double payment.
Double payment. All right, we like that. And then after that?
Nothing. Crickets.
Crickets. All right, no more payments. Now, if you're watching this, you may be thinking, oh, they got burned. But no, that is not the case, all right? Again, not the end of the story, all right? Because I would feel bad putting this out there if we burn an investor. The beauty of these mortgages and doing loans at 50% of the value or less is that it's really hard to get burned. Nothing's impossible, but it's really, you got to get really hosed by a judge, basically. That's the only way you're just going to lose everything. That hardly ever happens unless something just really bad happened, like something illegal, I don't know what, obviously stuff we don't do. So now you've got a situation where the investor bought this note and the client stopped making the payments, just stopped completely. So we got a bad news, good news. I know they call it good news, bad news, but I always go for the bad news first. What's the bad news?
No cash flow for the investor.
No cash flow. So if you borrow the money from somebody else to make the loan, and now you get to make your payments, you're making your payments. That's unfortunate. But if you got the money in the bank, you don't necessarily need the cash flow. And why is this a good thing?
Well, then you start accruing default interest rate. And so that's higher at 18% instead of the 12. So that was good for the investor.
All right. So if previously the payments at 12% were $450 a month, now, because the borrower is not paying, that $450, what and a half times that? I don't know, at least 600 something. That's a big increase for the investor. That is a 50% increase on the return. So now you're earning money at 18%. I'm saying earning with the air quotes because you're not actually getting the money. So there's some stress there, maybe. If you needed to make payments on something, you're not getting the cash flow for it. That's unfortunate, but you're making more money in the long term. And that is exactly what happened with this investor and this client. The client stopped paying, never made another payment. I would say the investor was fairly nice and waited until December to start the foreclosure process. That's a long time. That's very unusual. Normally, we'll start the foreclosure process within the same month because we don't want the client to get so far behind that they can't keep making payments, which maybe wouldn't have mattered in this case, but that's what happened. So to walk us through the foreclosure timeline here, Rhodes.
So they initiated the foreclosure in December, and then they had a sale date set for June. I don't remember if there was a bump or that's a normal timeline in Maryland for 6 months for the sale date, but when it went to auction in August, there were no bids sufficient.
Yeah, the sale date was set.
Sale date set.
In June, but it was set for August 2nd.
I thought there was something that happened. I don't remember if it was this deal or another deal where the sale date was set later than it should have been. Was that another deal?
I can tell you definitively that when we set the foreclosure process, we move it as fast as possible and we set it to the earliest possible date because we weren't super hands-on with this because it was an outside investor and we were completely done with it. This investor moved a little more slowly, and so it took a little more time. But the amount of time it takes to set a sale date really varies. Some states you can do it right away in 30 days. Some states it takes a long time. And even on the other end of it, in some states, even after you've gone through foreclosure and it's done, there's redemption periods of up to a year. I think one state has a whole year redemption period. That means you can lose it at foreclosure and you got a whole year to go get the money back. That's difficult for an investor because you're just sitting there not really making anything, but it is what it is. So the sale date was set for August 2nd. When it happened, what happened at the sale date?
They didn't get a sufficient bid.
There were no bids sufficient to cover the total debt, which at the time had now gone up to $67,500. If you just stop making payments, it starts ballooning. That $45K turned into $67,500. That's a big increase. And it became an REO. Do you know what REO stands for, Rhoda?
Speedwagon.
Yes, exactly. The courts love that band. And it actually means real estate owned. And that's what it means when a lender or a bank ends up taking back a property and it doesn't sell at a foreclosure auction. Normal process in most states, if you stop making your payments, you go into foreclosure, there's going to be a sale date. Some people call it a sheriff's sale. And the property will sell. When it sells, the investor gets all their money back, they walk away. This didn't happen in this case. There weren't sufficient bids, which doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the property, but these auctions go on all the time and you just never know if it's going to happen. So the investor ended up getting the property back. So, is that a good thing or a bad thing, Rhoda? If you had a property worth anywhere from $80,000 to $125,000 and you put in $45,000, is that a good thing?
Well, I don't know. I guess I would be worried that if it didn't go for anything at auction for that, then maybe it's not even worth $80,000. So it depends. You've got a little bit of work ahead of you to recoup your cost, but maybe it could be good because then you get this property for less than $80,000. So it depends on what you think.
Right. So if it's worth 80 and you put in 45 and some legal fees, then that, I think most people view it as a positive thing. But obviously you got to sell it first to really realize that money.
Right.
So that is what happened. Let's just break this down. Original investment was $45K. The investor did have to pay legal fees to go through the whole foreclosure process. There wasn't a bankruptcy or anything, so it moved along about the time it takes in Maryland. I just estimated it $10,000, but it was less than that. But let's just say the total investment was $55,000 to buy this property worth somewhere around $100,000. So what's the punchline? What's happening right now, Rhodes?
Right now, I believe it's in escrow that they're selling it for $90,000 with a $25,000 down payment. I don't know when or if the money goes hard, so maybe that money could go hard. They'd walk away and just keep putting it on the market, make $25,000 every month, right?
Right. So it's in escrow right now at a sale price of $90,000, and as a part of the sale, they're getting $25,000 up front, and as investors actually seller financing the rest. So it's not even completely done because the investor's going to continue to make interest on that same money. So let's net it out. $55,000 in. She's going to make a return of $35,000 on top of the $55,000. And let's look at this on the timeline basis. Just go through the whole thing. June 12th, she invested. She had it out for about 20 months. Put in around $55,000. She's going to net a return of $35,000. That is an increase of 63% on her money, or annualized, because it was over a year, it'd be about a 42% return on your money. So what do you think? Is 42% good return on your money, Rhodes, or is that crummy?
Depends on who you talk to. Some people want 100%.
You're a punk. I'd say 42 is pretty darn good to net out of this thing after all legal expenses and everything. So from the investment side, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
Yep.
It's good.
It is good. All right. So if that sounds like something that you would like to do, if you're sitting around with $45K or maybe 15 like us, maybe you want to go in on one of our smaller deals. We do have small deals that come through all the time. We basically don't even fund them. Our large investors, they don't want to mess around with small deals. They just don't even want to mess with them. They don't want to look at them. They don't want to hear about them. They don't want to go through this process. Frankly, going through this process for a 42% return seems worth it for me. So we plan on doing more, and if it's something you'd like to do, let us know. So there it is. Now, of course, if you have a lot more money, you can go invest in American Mortgage Fund. So if you're an accredited investor, I would recommend go to earn11.com. You can put in your money. They do all the work for you and get 11% return. or if you're an experienced note purchaser, kind of what we're talking about here, like the second person in our story, you can buy notes that we have. If you don't think you have enough to buy a note, then you're welcome to invest in deals with us. If this is something you're interested in doing and you have your own money, please don't contact me saying you have somebody else's money. That's brokering money, and I'm assuming it's illegal. I just can't do it. I don't want to hear about it. But if you have money you would like to potentially invest, let me know. We're putting people together to fund some of these smaller deals that otherwise we would just say no to. Send me an email at tim@financeagents.com, and I'll get back to you. That's really it for the show. Anybody have any questions? Rhoda, you have any questions? Ready? How did you feel with this whole thing? Did you like it? Now that the whole thing's done, what do you think?
Yeah.
Do you wish we hadn't sold it?
No.
Now knowing what happened, even knowing what happened, there's some people that even knowing what happened wouldn't want her to keep their money in. Would you have wanted to not have sold it in order to get that 42% annualized or 63% net return?
Yeah, come on, Rhoda.
I don't know, because I wasn't dealing with the stress of this thing going into foreclosure and then it's worth $67,000. I don't know. But it's done, and I'm happy with that. I also have a belief, like, I don't know, our thoughts are different. Like, I would never lend money that I couldn't afford to just kind of walk away from. And so that's why I am comfortable with smaller loan amounts and pooling my money with other people. I wouldn't have been comfortable if I had done the whole 45 by myself.
Okay.
But since it was smaller, I could just like sleep at night and not worry about it. So for me, that was an advantage.
Yeah, like if you're sitting there thinking, I got 45K, I think it's much smarter to invest $15K in 3 deals than to buy the whole thing on one. So that makes sense to me. Frank says he does this all the time. He sold a house like this several times, the same house every 24 months. Well, that's an interesting process. He just kept selling it, seller financing it, foreclosing on the person, selling it again. Well, that's one way to do it. Darren, what do you think, man? Now you've seen this whole thing. You're sitting there with let's just say we went back to our original question. You had 100K. You can invest it wherever you want. Now that you've seen the whole life cycle of it, do you kind of wish you had bought the note? Or do you think it would have been too stressful? I can say definitively my wife would not have appreciated the stress, right? So I'm more comfortable with it because I understand the security and I feel more confident in that. But, if that would freak you out, then it would have been a scary process. You?
I actually have a few other things I've invested in. So this, for me personally, because I don't understand real estate, and I haven't taken the time to really understand it. I mean, my experience is buying a condo, and that was just terrifying. But for other people, this would be a great thing. For myself, I do a lot of stuff in the stock market, but that's just me.
All right, so even after the fact, seeing the 42% annualized return and knowing the stress that potentially would have come along with it, you would opt for peace of mind with the stock market. I'm not trying to be,
Well, bonds.
Stock
more
market.
Bonds,
okay, bonds, it's safer.
But if I looked into it, if I did my research, then I could put my concerns aside and be able to make that investment. So at this moment, right now, I don't know enough.
Really? Because I need some money right now, Darren. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking with you, man. All right, cool. Well, that is...
I
guess I'm under the mattress. I might be able to help.
It was a joke. All right. Okay, that's it.
Oh, bringing the inside jokes in. Nobody's going to understand it.
All right, well, that's it. Thank you, everybody, for coming on the show. Check back next week for, I don't know what. What are we going to talk about next week? It's a surprise.
I vote for a show where I run the boards and it's you and Darren. I've been voting that for a couple weeks. Maybe great.
Okay, that's not a topic, but if you have a topic that you wanted us to cover in the show, let me know. I could tell you on the side that we've put out 18 LOIs in the last 3 days for 100% CLTV loans, so expect to hear a lot more about that. I'll be going over the deals. With that said, I'm a little superstitious. I want to stop talking about deals before they funded, just because I'm superstitious. So I'll be talking about them after they fund, and we're going to start doing a deal of the week for the 100% CLTV. That has clearly been very popular, and we're excited about it. We're getting a lot of business coming in. If you're talking to people who'd like to buy properties at 100% combined loan to value, we're your guy and gal, or frankly nobody else, because
people.
Hi.
And
we're your people.
And tech, guy, gal, and tech. That's it. All right. Anyway, all right. Let's get out of here. Thank you for coming on the show. Look forward to seeing you next week. Look forward to doing a lot of deals together. Punch in the air. Cut to black.